And volcanic ash in the upper atmosphere.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
I'm Jessica Ettinger, CNBC. Wall Street poised for gains this morning on this Fed decision day. Investors are expecting what could be an aggressive interest rate increase. That would come at 2 p.m. Eastern. It would make borrowing money more expensive to slow the economy and fight inflation. This means you'd pay more on any credit card balances you're carrying and other adjustable rate loans. Boeing out this morning with quarterly results that fell short of estimates, but it still expects to be cash positive this year. Shares were higher in pre-market trading. Kraft Heinz says sales grew in the last quarter after raising prices. You're paying more for Heinz ketchup and packaged foods. Facebook parent Meta, Ford, and Qualcomm each report earnings after the closing bell this afternoon. No winning Mega Millions ticket was sold for last night, so Friday night's jackpot is more than $1 billion. Jessica Ettinger, CNBC.
Where did I put that?
Pete's property manager just took an extended vacation.
Let's go see the dreams.
He needs a replacement before this becomes a cruel summer.
Oh, you wanted the lakefront for the 17th? How did this get double booked already?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by conducting interviews on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
This is your captain speaking. You better buckle your seatbelts for this one. I noticed my passport was due to expire, so I went to Staples. I got a passport photo in 10 minutes, so we're good to go.
Now at Staples, purchase a travel service and get 20% off the rest of your purchase. Get travel ready at Staples, your one-stop travel prep destination.
Daddy, let me tell you about another time that Staples saved my caboose. That all started back.
N731, in-store only, excludes Instacart orders, certain products, services, and technology. See staplesconnect.com/services/travel for details.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show on KCAA. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor, Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Go to Teamsters1932.org for more information. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you looking for a good union job? The Inland Empire's 14,000 member strong Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get working people trained and placed in open positions in public service clerical work and in jobs in the logistics industry. This is a new opportunity to advance your career and raise standards across the region. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you graduating high school soon and wondering what to do next? College is one option, but why not consider the high-paying jobs made possible by Union Power? Labor Union Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get you into the high school to high-paying job pipeline. You'll learn all the skills needed to excel in opportunities across industries. Visit 1932trainingscenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingscenter.org. Are you graduating?
Brothers, sisters, working class heroes, this is The Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Interesting day in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, as Donald Trump returned to the scene of the crime. America First Policy Institute, thanks a think tank of former Trumpkins, held their little shindig, which the president came back for. It was billed as a public safety speech. Gonna crack down on crime. Gonna kill drug dealers. That's what it was billed at. And in all honesty, it was just another one of Trump's 90 minutes rambling wine fests that resembled, basically what he did in 2020 on the campaign trail. Railed against the Russia investigation, attacked Anthony Fauci over the pandemic, mocked Adam Schiff, even went after the perfect phone call. Even tried to revisit that. You remember 2019, the perfect phone call, the thing that got him impeached the first time? Yeah, all of that. And so many more grievances. I don't know how you sit through a 90-minute grievance speech and not just be bored with it. I watched the majority, and my head hurt at the end of it. I'm just going, not even entertaining anymore. Just kind of a grumpy old curmudgeon complaining, "Get off my lawn!" But what's gotten attention is that he's called for the death penalty of drug dealers because, according to him, if you execute a drug dealer, you're going to save 500 lives. He's done the research, evidently. Now, I wonder, and it's an interesting timing because you have a drug company that just settled for, a pretty sizable amount of money, their drug claims. What is this, Teva, T-E-V-A? They have a tentative agreement for, what is that, $4.25 billion over the opioid, over all the people that they killed with their opioids. Because again, they're not drug dealers. That's medication. Yeah. Never mind them, because we don't send them to jail. We just, fine them, and then they get to file bankruptcy and do whatever. But nobody ever seems to go. But Donald Trump wants to kill drug dealers, just not those drug dealers. And again, you see the difference in the policy aims of our friends on the extreme right. Very, very bizarre stuff and angering. Just bizarre. Anyway, big poll just came out. CNN had a poll that found, and this is interesting because for all my friends who keep saying, no one's paying attention to the January 6th hearings, nobody, it's not going to move the needle. It's all a hoax. It's all a sham. The polling has really moved on who's responsible for January 6th. This most recent poll says 79% of the people polled feel that Donald Trump acted either unethically or illegally. 79% of the people polled. You go, but that's just that liberal CNN. No, there are others. 45% believe his actions were illegal. They say 61% say he encouraged the political violence in his statements ahead of January 6th. I agree with that because I had seen some of the rallies leading up to that day. 77% said he could have done more to stop the attack once it began. I'm going, only 77%? Seriously? Only 77%? Understand, the cult, they listen. And I thought it was interesting that if you watch the hearing, that they did pan to some video of people going, well, Donald Trump says to leave. We should probably leave. That there were actually people paying attention to his words as they're rioting and attacking our Capitol. Now, the interesting part for me today, an interview with Lester Holt, Attorney General Merrick Garland said that he would pursue justice without fear or favor. Everyone should be held accountable to the law. I find that interesting. I've been saying this for a while. I think they can, possibly guardedly optimistic that there's going to be something going on. And the Washington Post reported today, just breaking within the last couple of hours, that they have sources that are saying that, yep, the Department of Justice is actually investigating Trump's actions in the January 6th in a criminal fashion. This news, because I'll tell you, this is even more than I was expecting. Look, I was expecting them to go after John Eastman. I was expecting them to go after Giuliani, Bannon, the whole cabal, the whole Kukuri clan. I was expecting that. But if you're going to go after the top guy, if you're going to go after a president, you better have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. And I look at someone like Garland, I don't think he's political. I really don't. I thought at the time when Obama put him up for a Supreme Court justice, I had two thoughts. There's the partisan side of me that said, no, I don't think he's in line enough with, where I would like to see, policy things go, but then I'm like, no, he's like the perfect guy to have on the court because he's not really political. He's a very moderate kind of, hey, this follow the law kind of person. So to see this going in that direction, interesting. And hopefully something that does bring accountability. Because I think this has to be done it has to be done in the full sunlight, has to be done in full public. It has to be done right out for everybody to witness and to watch. And look, bring on the cross-examination. One of the things I keep hearing from, well, what if you had people cross-examining those witnesses? I really wanted Scott Perry on the panel. I did. I wanted him there so that the other people on the panel could turn to him and go, oh, Scott, you asked for a pardon, right? I wanted that. I wanted Scott Perry to be able to ask questions and then have people ask him, well, explain why that question, what was that? How does that work? What did you do as part of that? So for me, this could be interesting. Now, I think Trump we're going to see a lot more of him. A lot more, because I think he believes the only way he stays out of jail is if he runs for president. So that he can claim, oh, this is political persecution. It's not. It's a crime. You were criming. So going to be something that I want to follow. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Do you think, as the CNN poll says, that he acted either unethically or illegally? Were the actions that you saw illegal? Is this something that he should be held accountable for? And look, more importantly, the future presidents. This is going to set the precedents for what happens down the line. Joe Biden isn't going to do this. Joe Biden's not going to cause an insurrection. Joe Biden's not going to. But can you imagine a Ron DeSantis, a Josh Hawley, a Ted Cruz? Can you imagine someone else, the next iteration of a Trump? Because they seem to be moving in that extreme direction. Vanity Fair had an interesting article that I came across talking about this idea of how the next presidential election is going to be covered. And I thought this was interesting in how the Republicans and the right deals with media. They have their incestuous pool. They have all of the people that they grant unlimited access to. But anyone who's going to question them, they've kind of shut off. And you see it as they're doing sideline interviews or trying to, we're not talking about that. And the right has done a masterful job of saying, you know what, we're only going to talk about what we want to talk about. I go back to Sarah Palin. I know you want me to answer your question, but I came here to talk about what I want to talk about. It's that, only much more extreme. And that's kind of kind of what we're going to see. So now, if you don't have debates, because they've already said probably not going to be because we don't believe in the debate, people who are doing it. Not going to talk to the lamestream media. That means anyone who disagrees with them or may be critical of any of their policies or ideas. And not going to do town halls or be open to the public, which means you, me, us, we, the rabble. What's that going to mean for getting the next president and electing them? We're heading for interesting times. Again, love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Let's go to Alice on line 1. Alice, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, and how are you?
Living the dream. So what's going on?
Well, all I wanted to say is, if anyone thinks that Trump and his little insurrection is something legal, it's obvious to me that they don't understand, what a democratic republic is, nor do they understand the Constitution or the rule of law.
Come on, Alice. They were walking between the velvet ropes. They were walking between the lines. They were walking between. It was like any other day. It was a patriotic day. Now, granted, they missed the bathroom and dumped on the floor and urinated on desks, but that's just they had bad aim.
Yeah, and if they try to tell me that story, I'm just going to look at him and tell him, I might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. But, I'm with you. He needs to be held accountable. And because we all know that you have Abbott, you have DeSantis, you have some of these other lunatic right-wing GOP folks, well, he gets away with it. Oh, hey, they're going to try it, and we might not be so lucky the next time.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about, I'm looking at this Vanity Fair article where they're talking about, hey, what about the next presidential election where Republicans are no longer holding town halls? They're talking about not doing debates. They're not talking with journalists because they've got their own incestuous pool media. Do you think that's going to matter? Is that something important, you think?
Well, yeah, I think it is important, especially since we're hearing, all these little, I don't want to say, let's say leaks that are coming out, of their plans to do this and to do that. I think they have a whole great big game plan that would, let's say, shock some of the saner Republicans, but those of us on the left that still have a little bit of sense would be going, yeah, sounds about right.
No, it is what they've been telling us for years. I mean, I actually had a friend not too long ago. I can't believe they overturned Roe. I can't believe they went that far. I go, have you not been paying attention? Have you not been listening for the last 20 years? This has been the goal all along. What have you missed? Why have you not heard this?
Well, I have to agree with you. I think, and the politicians on the left have a tendency to do that also. They do the, oh no, that's just rhetoric. They don't mean anything by it. And the rest of us are going, excuse me, what part did you miss here?
Yeah, exactly. What part did you miss? When they tell you who they are, believe them. It's that simple. And I do. I believe you. You're going to tell me something, I'm going to believe you.
Oh, absolutely. And, their entire, as far as I'm concerned, they started really going crazy under Reagan. And then if you remember, I don't know if you're a few years younger than me, but I remember in the 80s particularly, and then in the 90s, they were all going totally insane on, especially the abortion clinics, killing the doctors, killing the nurses, blowing up the clinics.
Yep.
And the bad part was the Republican politicians and their ministers and whatnot were going, well, they're saving the little innocent unborn lives. And that right there should have been a clue that, we've gone over the cliff there a bit.
No, the doctor in Kansas. I was in Boston at the time in '94, right around, I think it was first night, right around New Year's in '94, where the guy blew up an abortion clinic there. I mean, it was crazy back then. You're right, and there was always a justification. No, we're saving the babies. Now they're projecting, saying that the left is going to do the same thing, and that's just not reality.
No, and the part that kills me is they're the ones that's telling everyone, well, you can't be educated and learn this, and you can't read that, and you can't marry this person, and you can't identify with this gender. And, well, you have to have all these kids, whether you want to or not. And we really don't think that you should use birth control. But you got to watch out for those Democrats because they're coming for all your rights.
Yeah, they're coming for your guns. That's the only right that matters, your guns.
I just sat there and shake my head and go, really? I actually feel like I'm in the middle of an insane asylum sometimes when I have, because I told you, this little hamlet that I live in. There's me, my husband, and one other sane person. Everyone else is Trump Republicans. And I just feel like I'm in the middle of insane asylum sometime when they start spewing. And I just want to shake them and go, please, go get some electroshock therapy and some heavy-duty psych drugs. But you have a good evening, Rick.
Thanks, Alice. Appreciate it. But here's the thing, and this is where I keep coming back to. Eventually, we're all in the Shark Tank. And they may be going after someone that you go, yeah, we should go after them, those abortionists. Eventually, no one's going to be pure enough in conservative world. No one ever is. That's the sad reality. Love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. You got a thought, question, comment, want to hear it? Also, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you download the podcast. Wherever you get yours, you'll find ours, from iTunes to iHeart to Stitcher to Podbean, everywhere in between. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. Generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So some good news coming out of the Senate, and I don't say that sarcastically. This is actually some pretty good news. A 64-32 cloture vote actually got some Republicans to come along and vote for the CHIPS Act. This is going to help the semiconductor industry move production back to the U.S. And look, I'm someone who's always been against the idea of handing out welfare to corporate America, but I know we're in a moment, and this is where I'm in this spot. I know we're in a moment where the only way we're going to reshore manufacturing is if we help subsidize it. And I know there's nothing drives me crazier because we subsidize the move out of the country. We're going to have to subsidize it to come back and help rebuild some of that. And that's why I think it's so important that this actually gets done. Now, I understand within the next day or two they're going to have the actual vote. Speaker Pelosi says that it's going to move through the House. It should get to the president's desk pretty quickly. So this another big win. So for all those people who say, Joe Biden hasn't done anything, you think about it. You got the American Rescue Plan pushed through, did some real good things. You think about the infrastructure bill that the previous administration couldn't get done and didn't really want to. And now this, you think about a little bit on gun reform. This administration, given the fact that we've got a divided Senate the way it is, actually moving some pretty decent stuff along. Granted, Biden was not my first choice, but I think he's done a heck of a job. Just my thoughts. Let's go to the phones. We got Mark on line 2 calling from Chicago. Mark, how are you today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Living the dream, my brother. What's on your mind?
You know what? The Republicans don't have to worry in their own minds about having debates or anything like that, because in their own minds they have mastered voter suppression. They have mastered voter intimidation that they're going to do at the polls. They've mastered removing people from the voting list. If you're registered to vote, make sure you check and see if you're still on the voting list. They've mastered things like caging people. You know what caging is?
Absolutely.
They send out cards to make sure that you still live where you live, and if you don't pay attention and you don't send the card back, then they remove you from the voter roll because they assume that you don't live there anymore. And unfortunately, they've also mastered getting enough judges on their side and have the majority of the Supreme Court. So a lot of this stuff really is not protected by the courts, because the courts are involved in the whole thing. It's like a reticulating python, and slowly, they've been encircling us and squeezing, and encircling and squeezing, and now they have gerrymandering that they can do, and the things that they have mastered, just like with the low population states. Why the Democrats didn't figure out, it's a no-brainer, why they didn't figure out that the low population states are so easy to take over. Of course, you need money to do it, and you also have to have a corrupt mind to do it. But in the low population states, if you get money and you get candidates to go in, basically they have 2 senators just like the high population states do. But unfortunately, the Democrats didn't figure that out. Or if they did, they were slow in doing anything about it. But now these low population states basically are Republican-controlled, and the majority of the people in the United States are not in charge anymore because of the problem that we have with the low population states and equal number of senators, like 2 senators for Oklahoma or Wyoming, low population states, and 2 senators for California. Give me a break.
Oh, it was set up that way so that the population, the mass population, wouldn't run the country. And this is what I'm told from the beginning. That's what the founders wanted. They wanted, the good white landowning males to control things. But you're right. You go back to 2000. That we were purging people off the voting rolls back then in Florida. 2004, you had the caging. 2012, you had the voter ID things to keep people from voting. They're masters at it. And coming up in October, we're going to be coming to Chicago doing a movie event with Greg Palast on his movie Vigilantes, Georgia's vote suppression hitmen. So look forward to that. We're going to be coming your way. We're securing a place to show the movie. And hopefully folks will come out in your area and participate. Greg's going to come out and give a presentation, and hopefully we engage people to get out and vote, because I think this is an important election.
Right, to get out and vote, to register to vote, to make sure you're still registered to vote.
There you go.
And I'm hoping that we have some good-hearted billionaires like Bloomberg and some of the other guys that they have the money to do it, that they start to rally and to fight against some of these things that the Republicans are doing.
Absolutely. We got a lot of work to do, Mark.
I really hate to say this, but it doesn't look good unless we really rally and fight back.
Yep, got to go. Appreciate the call, Mark. Thanks so much. Look forward to talking to you again real soon. Quick break, right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1877. That was the day striking railroad workers in Chicago clashed with police in the Battle of the Halsted Street Viaduct. The Great Railroad Strike had reached the nation's railroad hub and began there 3 days earlier. Switchmen from the Michigan Central traveled to freight shops in yards across the city, calling workers out to strike. Soon, lumber shovers, butchers, and industrial workers joined the strike. By the time the battle began, police had already clashed with unarmed strikers twice. Historian Richard Schneveroff describes the scene leading up to the battle. The city was now preparing itself for a full-scale large-scale insurrection, even though violent confrontations were rooted in police attacks on non-violent crowds. Previous confrontations centered in the railroad yards. Now, striker actions spilled over into the neighborhood of Pilsen, where they live. Thousands gathered along Halsted Street between 12th and 16th Streets. The police arrived attempting to disperse the crowd. They chased the strikers south and, as Shanaroff describes, emptied their revolvers into the masses of humanity. The crowd pelted the police with stones in defense and chased them over the viaduct. As word spread of the pitched battle, stockyard workers from nearby Bridgeport walked off the job. They marched along Halsted Street with butcher knives in hand to support the strikers under attack. The crowd on Halsted swelled to more than 10,000 as workers continued to battle police. By evening, 30 workers had been shot dead. Hundreds more were seriously wounded. But the strike continued to spread more fiercely. Streetcar stockmen, stone cutters, gas workers, glass cutters, and others joined the strike. The city was shut down for another week until railroad bosses finally rescinded wage cuts. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Last July, several GOP senators combined their 5-watt intellects to charge that inflation was rising because of, quote, insane tax and spending spree of President Biden and the Democrats. Never mind that the insane spending is for such sensible, productive, and enormously popular national needs as child care and jobless benefits. Mitch McConnell's rabidly partisan flock saw the chance to politicize the public's legitimate worries about rising prices. You poor consumers are made to pay more for basics, they squawked, because of Socialist Joe's investment in grassroots people. Follow the ricocheting pinball of the GOP's logic. 1, they say that helping hard-hit families induces them to refuse to go to work. 2, this creates blockages in the global supply chain. 3, this causes shortages of everything. 4, this forces corporate bosses to raise all prices, which 5, slams the middle class and poor, so 6, lazy workers cause inflation. Whoa, Rube Goldberg couldn't have dreamed up a more fantastical diagram to deflect attention from what's really happening, namely that instead of an inflation problem, we have a corporate greed problem. Of course, the greedmeisters insist that their pursuit of excess corporate profits has not driven any price surges. In our economy of free market competition, they snap, prices are established by the law of supply and demand. It's the magic of the marketplace, they explain. But magicians don't do magic, they perform illusions. And the illusion of free market competition implodes when it hits the reality that our economy doesn't remotely resemble a competitive marketplace. This is Jim Hightower saying, for some 40 years, corporate-directed government policies have been transforming America into a monopoly nation, letting the few gouge the many. That's where inflation comes from.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So as we talked about the other day, the Trumpkins are talking about this Schedule F. The idea that our dear leader, if he's ever reelected, or His Excellence, as the Taliban leader would call him, that he liked very much. And that was his speech, that was his words, not mine. But His Excellence would be able to hire and fire anyone, making patronage great again. And I said, how would this affect our federal workforce? What would this mean for us? And I thought the best thing to do was reach out to somebody who would know. That's why I've asked my good friend Phil Glover to come share some thoughts with us. Phil is the National Vice President of District 3 for AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. Phil, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, thanks, Rick. I appreciate it.
So we hear this.
You have me back on.
We hear this Schedule F, and first thing I thought about was taxes. But I'm going, what exactly is this? What would this do? What would this mean for you and your members?
Yeah, if you just do a Google search, that's the first thing that pops up is a tax schedule, Schedule F. This goes much deeper than that. This is an executive order that was created in October of 2020 by the Trump administration, by President Trump. It's Executive Order 13957. And what it creates is a schedule of employees that the agencies can put people into that basically makes them completely at-will employees. So they can be hired and fired at will with no cause, drastically changing the civil service. Civil service frankly, since Truman, I believe, when he was a senator, he got involved in this issue of patronage. And they created the civil service to stop people from hiring and firing everybody when they came into government, so that you had a continuation of service to the American public. And that's what this would go back to, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to any conservative, and there's this visceral hatred of the civil service system, and I got to tell you, I you can agree or disagree with me. I think it's racially motivated. That's my view, because everybody I talk to, the first thing they talk about is it's a racial motivated thing.
I don't know if it's that. I think it's a control issue. I think they believe that somehow the federal sector, we're all sitting down here, like when I worked at the Bureau of Prisons, and a Republican administration comes in and here's their agenda, and we're sitting down there saying, oh no, we're not going to do this. That's really not how this goes. I mean, the thing is the secretaries are all selected by the president. They have to get confirmed by the Senate. You get those people into place, and some of them drive the agenda and some of them don't. As we talked about on this show before, Obama's administration came in. All of his agenda didn't get enacted into the federal government. Trump's didn't, Bush Jr., you name it. And Biden's isn't right now. Even though he's appointed the secretaries, down below, it takes years to change what the federal government is doing. And so, this is kind of a short-sighted look at the federal civil service.
So isn't this then the argument that Trump's making then? I want my agenda in, I want my people in. Isn't this aren't you making the argument for patronage then? I want people who are going to push my agenda on day one. We're going to get what we want, and we'll change the whole bureaucracy like we would do in business. Isn't that the argument, though?
Well, that's their argument. The problem is the government is in business, and there are laws and rules and regulations in place that you have to navigate. And whether they wipe out 50,000 employees and bring in 50,000 employees, you still have to navigate laws, rules, regulations. There are requirements on how you change things. Those things take time. There are rulemaking policies that you have to send out rulemaking and put it online for so long so people have a right to, and this is the public. The general public has a right to weigh in on changes to what the government does in rulemaking. And essentially they think that would all change, but I don't believe it will. The law is the law. And so, you're not going to change the federal statutes. You can change the people, but you can't change statutes.
Well, isn't that what Rick Scott wants to do with his plan? I mean, to sunset every bit of legislation and then have to re-up it every 5 years. I mean, the goal really is, if you listen to what they're saying, Phil, the goal is to do away with government entirely, privatize everything, and then in the places that government has some operational importance, to make that a patronage system of loyalty-based employment to dear leader or to his excellence. That's the world that they want. They're telling us that already, I think.
Oh, I think, well, they've gone to this this idea of cronyism and loyalty tests. That's definitely what the last administration wanted. That's, and you go back to I've been in Republican administrations going back to Reagan. I've never seen that. They worked in the system, Bush Jr., Bush Sr., Reagan. This has just become an extreme thing, just like other things across government and across the country. They have just gone completely off the deep end on some of this stuff, and I'm not sure when it's going to stop. I mean, in this case, like with Schedule F, the Congress has passed an amendment in the National Defense Authorization Act to where any administration can't come in and change the titles and the rules and the schedules on what employees are under. Now, the Senate hasn't acted on that yet. We'll see what happens when the NDAA comes out of the Senate. But as of right now, the House has acted. We'll see what the Senate does. We did have some Republican support on that amendment. Brian Fitzpatrick got a PA1, was one of the co-sponsors, and so we'll see what the Senate does with that. I think it would be a good thing to do because the Congress should have something to do with how employees are going to be treated in the federal sector.
You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Phil Glover. Phil is the international vice president for AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees, District 3. Phil, you talked a minute ago about how this function of hatred of government, and I think we've been trained to hate our government. And look, I was just looking at a poll here a moment ago by the folks at the University of Chicago Institute of Politics, and they've come up with this thing that says more than a quarter of the population feels so alienated from their government that they believe soon they're going to have to take up arms. And interestingly enough, most of those seem to be on the Republican side. Now, this is a bipartisan poll. There's a Republican pollster and a Democratic pollster. They came together to try and find, the pulse of the country. There's, especially on the right, seems to be this hatred of government and this want to tear down and destroy. And I think this is the vein that Trump and the folks pushing this Schedule F idea are really tapping into.
Well, I think if you look back in history, you look at Ruby Ridge, you look at those things, some of the things that happened out west, certainly McVeigh, what happened at the Murrah building, that started all of this. There was a start to this, and unfortunately with social media, the internet, the way it operates, people have been able to find each other across the country who believe these things, and you can just see the vitriol and the hate, and it just continues to grow. Federal workers are probably more threatened now than they've ever been, and the crazy thing is we are in the majority of the federal workforce works and lives out of Washington, D.C., out in the field. We live in neighborhoods just like everybody else. We have kids that go to the same schools. We coach. I coached Little League and soccer and everything else with people around here. And when they get into groups and they start talking about that government, they don't realize they're talking about the guy next door that works and lives in the community. And that's what we have to get people back to recognizing, that we are not the enemy here. In fact, the federal workers that I know, they keep communities safe. They stand the border. They make sure inmates stay inside federal prisons. All of those things. We help the military do their jobs as DoD workers. The VA protects and takes care of veterans. So, and there's a lot more. Obviously, there's right. 100 agencies, and I don't want to leave any out because believe me, I'll get a call after this. But the thing is, we're people just like everybody else who has kids, families, sending kids to college, doing our work every day. And there has been this direct assault on trying to make us the other, the bad people, whatever. And it's it can be disheartening to our members. It can be disheartening to people who go to work every day and try and do the right thing. And it's just unfortunate that you have entire news channels and internet sites created to bash the federal workforce. And it's just, something that we have to fight back on. We have to talk to people about what we do. We have to tell people we go to their churches. We are in your school. Our kids are there. We're not here to harm anybody. We're here to do our jobs as It's laid out in law and in statute and in regulation. That's what we do. So, I hope I didn't go on too far there.
No. Now, you brought up the Bureau of Prisons, which back in the news now because I guess the Bureau of Prisons director, this Michael Carvajal, is leaving within a couple of days under a cloud of some pretty serious allegations. I guess inmate suicides are up, sexual abuses, rampant. There, the free flow of drugs is what they're saying. There's weapons, contrabands, all kinds of stuff, and he's just saying, well, it's a big place. Yeah, we don't know what to do. What's going on with this? I mean, I see this story, and the deflection seems to be, well, it's just bureaucracy, and I'm going, I don't know about that. What's this about?
Yeah, they had a hearing today, and one of the I think the government oversight committee held a hearing today. I saw Senator Ossoff ran it as the subcommittee chair, and that was specifically or about Atlanta, I think, and problems at Atlanta. But the Bureau of Prisons. Let's go back to 2017. The previous administration cut 6,000 positions, and those positions have never been brought back. And so, and when we got Congress to add positions back, about 1,200 through appropriations, the director, not this director, Director Inch, who was there for about a minute, said, hey, my boss said to cut. I don't care how much money you give me. I'm going to cut. And so that's been the mindset since then. Carbajal is not the current administration's pick. And frankly, yes, the Bureau is a big place, 122 facilities, high security prisons, medium lows. There's a lot going on there. But, to say that he has no control is nonsense. What's happened over years is the directors have relinquished their authority to the regional directors or to the wardens. And if a warden's rogue, they don't discipline them, they move them. If they do anything wrong at the management level, they find a way to move them. They don't fire them, not generally. There's a few maybe over the years, or they're told they need to retire, which is what's happening right now with the director. He's retiring. He's not being fired for anything. And so for all the incompetence going on, you notice that they're not firing anybody at the top level, are they? No. So, and this happens over and over. I've been in the Bureau. I was in the Bureau for, 23 and a half years. And I saw managers come and go, and mostly they would move them around when they got into trouble. And then the other part of this that, we've seen employees that have been abused by managers. Recently, there was a decision at a local in Yazoo, Mississippi, where the local president was hammered by the administration there after she came on. She had an excellent record prior to becoming the local union president. And then all of a sudden, she was terrible. And they went after her. And an arbitrator just recently ruled that she was harassed so badly that he awarded her, I think $300,000 was the award.
Wow.
But here's the thing. Will the managers be fired there? Probably not. Will they be moved? Maybe. And again, the accountability has to start at the top and hold them accountable. The other issue is bonuses. What happens at BOP all the time is they keep telling everybody how they have no money. And then at the end of the year, you start to see that all the SES management, all the senior executive service, gets these massive bonuses at the end of the year. But they didn't have any money for overtime.
Yeah, can't pay the workers.
Can't pay the workers. Can't promote them. Can't, there's a whole bunch of things they can't do. Let's augment the employees. Let's use, let's use secretaries to work in correctional housing units instead of paying overtime. Anything to save a buck. But at the end of the year, boy, they get their bonuses. And we've complained about this for years. Congress has done studies on it. GAO has looked at it. And there's no explanation for it except greed.
No.
And we're going to get ours. So
no, it's an interesting juxtaposition. You got the people who you could fire that you don't, and now you want to fire everybody and put.
Yeah, they could fire all those guys, Rick, just tomorrow if they wanted. They're all senior executive management. Yep.
It's an interesting frame, but Phil, I appreciate the time and the explanation. As always, great stuff, my friend.
Hey, it was good to see you, Rick. You have a good night.
Good stuff. Our good friend Phil Glover. I mean, seriously, you think about it. It's an interesting way of looking at it. They want to fire all the working people, just not the. Well, you get it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Give me a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. You got a thought, question, comment? Want to hear it? Also, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break, right back. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1990. That was the day that George H.W. Bush signed into law the Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA prohibits employment discrimination of people with disabilities and requires public accommodations to be accessible. The passage of the act was the result of years of grassroots organizing by members of the ADA community and their allies. When President Bush signed the law, he said that if he had to thank everyone who had been involved, we'd never get out of here before sunset. The passage of the act had bipartisan support, but many business leaders worried about the ADA's effect, fearing the costs of accessibility accommodations to their bottom lines. While most business leaders did not oppose the act outright, they did push for amendments and concessions to weaken its impact. The business newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, called the act, quote, the Lawyers' Employment Act, warning that a flood of lawsuits on disability issues would harm businesses. In signing the bill, President Bush addressed business leaders specifically. He said, quote, you've called for new sources of workers. Well, many of our fellow citizens with disabilities are unemployed. They want to work, and they can work. And this is a tremendous pool of people. And remember, this is a tremendous pool of people who will bring to jobs diversity, loyalty, proven low turnover rate, and only one request, the chance to prove themselves. The passage of the ADA paved the way for fundamental changes in America's infrastructure, such as accessibility ramps, spots for wheelchairs on buses and subways, and parking accommodations. This was a major step forward, yet more work remains in order to build a society truly accessible to all. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So yesterday we talked about Glenn Thompson, the Republican from Pennsylvania, who voted against the Respect for Marriage Act, and then 3 days later gave a speech at his gay son's wedding. And we got to hear the speech, and look, it was a good speech. I give him credit. He went and he was, very effusive with praise. It's great to have another son in the family. Wife's not going to have a fourth cesarean. All kinds of flowery, wonderful. Oh, we're so happy. We're so wonderful. And you go, explain this. Explain how you can vote against the act that allows this event to happen. How you can stand up in front of all of these people who know you voted against it and give that speech. It's kind of the hypocrisy, wow. It's kind of like Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich has a half-sister who is gay, and yet he's out there bashing John Fetterman and falsely bashing Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, claiming that Fetterman had replaced the American flag in his office at the Pennsylvania State Capitol with a marijuana flag and a gay pride flag. That's not true, but it's a good talking point. It gets the base all frothed up, all lathered up, all bunched up in the panties. But here again, it's what they do: lie. Now Fetterman said, "Look, I can't say I'm surprised. I'm deeply disappointed that the flags were removed on the literal start of Pride Month," he said. in a statement. But he goes, what's more disappointing and angering is the Republicans in Pennsylvania can quickly come up with legislation to take down flags, but not to ensure that Pennsylvania law explicitly protects the LGBTQIA plus community from discrimination. He's got a point. He's got a point. And protect people from danger. This next bit over at Rolling Stone, something that I have talked about with my producer, of this is probably going to come. I didn't think it was going to be this quick. Didn't know it was already in the works. Evidently there is a far-right neo-Nazi group called Rape Krieg. Yes, I said that right, Rape Krieg. Evidently this former U.S. Marine was plotting a mass murder, mass sexual assault kind of thing, explicitly decrease the number of minority residents in the U.S. while simultaneously increasing the number of white children by raping a bunch of white women. This is in the memo. The article says, the memo says Bellinger trained with airsoft rifles in the woods off of Long Island as part of an plot to attack the Zionist order of governments. Much of Bellinger's ideology and plotting, the memo says, is based on a desire to lessen the number of non-white Americans and to rape white women to increase the production of white children. You thought I made it up? I didn't. And we had just talked about this in the what's going to be the response to Roe. You're going to get some of the mentally diminished white supremacist nitwits, the skinheads, the Nazis, all of these upstanding, good, God-fearing Christian folk who are going to, in their twisted little narrow minds, think, hey, it's open season on women. And this, I got to tell you, just kind of stopped me. I'm going, I was expecting it. I'll be honest, I was expecting it. Was not expecting it to already be in place. Because, oh, by the way, this has been, this happened back in June when he was arrested. This memo was from July 14th. This is the kind of stuff when crazy is allowed to continue to, and extremism is allowed to grow unchecked and unchallenged. When extremism is allowed to continue to fester right out in public and no one does anything, no one says anything. Or maybe this is the direction we're going. The scary thing for me, look, I'm someone who wants to be on the side of fighting for better wages, hours, conditions. I'm someone who wants to make lives better. I'm someone who wants to, talk about economic stuff. I'm someone who wants to go, hey, how do we get the best education for our children? How do we advance things? The sad reality is all of this horrible stuff is pulling us down, is tearing us apart, is destroying us. And you go, well, who's to blame? Are you going to blame Donald Trump? No, Donald Trump's he's what came out of our disease. This has been going on for a long time. As Phil said a minute ago, the reality is you go back to the guy who blew up the Mirror building in Oklahoma City. That had been growing back then. And we didn't do enough to crush that. It's time sane and rational people come back together and find out how we can start to agree on how we move ourselves forward, how we talk about how we can move the country forward and fight on the right things. This is insanity. But rest assured, this guy isn't alone. There are others out there.
Just in the past 48 hours, the Oak Fire has exploded in size.
State of emergency declared over new fire near Yosemite National Park.
The previously unprecedented, is now becoming routine.
Simultaneous global heat waves are now 6 times more frequent, thanks to global warming.
Thanks, global warming.
Plus, new study quantifies just how much climate damage rich nations have caused to poor ones.
All of that damage and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
According to CBS News, brutal and dangerous temperatures were felt from California to Massachusetts. Okay, CBS News, just say America.
Yep, this is your Green News Report.
That's like telling your partner, hey, before we get intimate, I should warn you I have this little rash from my right toe to my left ear.
Okay, Desi Doyen, yeah, it has been incredibly hot across, well, much of the entire country over the past few days,
yes,
although it is beginning to cool down a bit in some of those places. That said, what do you got for us today?
Well, California Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency, unlocking more federal support to help defray the costs of battling a new, fast-moving wildfire near Yosemite National Park that exploded in size over the weekend.
That's different than the one last week that was threatening those giant sequoias.
Yes.
In Yosemite?
Yes, it's a new, different one, and the sequoias so far are okay.
Good.
State fire agency CAL FIRE says the new oak fire is exhibiting, quote, really unprecedented fire behavior.
Bad.
And in just 48 hours became the state's largest wildfire so far this year, burning out of control through tinder dry forests amid an historic drought and intense heat. It has forced the evacuation of at least 6,000 people in the surrounding areas at the height of the summer tourist season. The simultaneous record-setting extreme heat waves engulfing the Northern Hemisphere for weeks at a time this summer are causing massive crop losses. In Italy, the heat and drought have hammered the rice crop in some regions, especially concerning because Italy produces more than half of all the rice in Europe. Worse, Italy's mighty Po River is drying up, in turn allowing salt water from the Adriatic Sea to push an unprecedented 18 miles inland, affecting both crops and drinking water supplies, as CBS News reports.
Rodolfo Laurenti works for the local water authority, which closely monitors the flow and salinity of water in the Po Delta. The moment of real climate crisis, he says, is 2022.
Wait, that's right now.
And now, new research concludes that multiple concurrent global heat waves are now occurring 6 times more frequently than they did in the past due to human-caused global warming. In an interview with PBS, climate scientist Dr. Michael Mann explains that global warming has raised the baseline temperature of the planet, and mounting evidence indicates that warming in the Arctic is slowing down the northern hemisphere jet stream that drives weather systems.
And what's happening is those systems are getting stuck in place. So the extreme heat that we've seen, the floods, the wildfires, the drought across the entire northern hemisphere this summer, part of what's going on is this sort of stuck jet stream pattern. It is something that we think is being made more frequent because of climate change.
I recall speaking with Dr. Mann about exactly that some years ago on the broadcast. Has climate change just messed up all of our weather patterns? He said it looks like that could be the case. It was before he actually did a study confirming that, yeah, that looks like it is the case.
And meanwhile, a new study has quantified just how much economic damage rich nations have caused in climate harm to poorer nations. Because industrialized nations have been emitting greenhouse gases for decades longer than poorer ones, researchers from Dartmouth University calculate that the world's 5 leading emitters of greenhouse gases have caused $6 trillion in global economic losses since 1990 from warming impacts caused by their emissions. The analysis finds the United States, the top historical emitter of all time, has caused nearly $2 trillion in climate damages to other countries since 1990.
We're number 1.
In other news, estimates of gasoline spilled from the Colonial Pipeline into a North Carolina nature preserve back in 2020 have been revised upwards again. In a legal settlement with the state, Colonial admits that the spill wasn't 64,000 gallons as originally estimated, but was actually 2 million gallons,
oh, man.
8 times larger, and may have been leaking for 3 weeks undetected.
We always tell you that when you hear about an oil spill, it will always be larger than the the oil companies try to tell you at the beginning.
In the state settlement, Colonial will pay less than $5 million in fines.
Well, the cost of doing business.
For what is now the largest inland pipeline spill in U.S. history.
For much more on all of these stories, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com.
Are you tired of think tank approved corporate news and commentary? Are you tired of CEOs telling you what to think, who to hate, and who to vote for? Well, welcome to the Rick Smith Show. We don't take orders from some boardroom, and we don't do focus groups or talking points. We don't work for them, and we never will. I'm Rick Smith, and I work for you. Join us daily at thericksmithshow.com and download the podcast and never miss a minute.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So it's been 13 years, 13 long years since the minimum wage was last increased. Here in Pennsylvania, where I live, it's been, well, longer than that. Well, 16 years. 2006 was the last time the state of Pennsylvania raised the wage. $7.15, nothing in between. That was the battle cry back when Ed Rendell was governor, and I think I got the pen on the little platform that they handed out, because look, it was a great move. It was a good fight, raised the wage, it was good, and then the federal level, it raised it up to 7.25, and nothing since. Disgraceful. And we've just come out of this pandemic, inflation's through the roof, families are struggling. And here to share some thoughts on just how bad this is, because understand, there is not a place in this country anymore where you can rent an apartment on minimum wage. Nowhere. Before the pandemic, there were I think 7% of the counties where you could possibly get a one-bedroom apartment. No more. And here to share some thoughts on this. I hate to call it historic, this horrible anniversary. I've asked Joe Sandberg to come talk with us. Joe's a progressive business leader and investor, one of our good friends. Joe, thanks for taking time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, I don't know how to frame this horrible anniversary, this terrible date. I mean, 13 years. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, it's a nightmare for millions of people who are living a betrayal. I think one of the things that makes people most angry is that when we're kids, we're told that if you work hard and play by the rules that you can get ahead in America, and it's proven to be a total lie for most people.
Now, I look at this, and again, I have people say, well, nobody makes minimum wage. Rick, nobody. There are no workers out there earning minimum wage, and yet I know that a third of the workers in this country make less than $15 an hour. So if we raised it up to $15 an hour, which has been the battle cry for quite some time, if we just did that, like you guys have done out in California, a third of the workers in this country would see something of a bump. That, I think, would do wonders to help people put food on the table, gas in the tank, a roof over their head. I think it'd be a huge start.
Yeah, well, even in California, we've fallen behind because the cost of living in California is the highest in the nation, and our minimum wage has been stuck at $15 for a while now, which is why over 1 million Californians signed a petition to put on the ballot a proposition to raise California's minimum wage to $18. So in 2024, California voters will get to vote to raise it to $18 because cost of living has gone up so much. And, if the minimum wage had kept pace with productivity since 1960, it would be over $25 today. So it's just one of the great injustices. And the part of it that is especially odd, I really use that word intentionally because the politics of it don't make sense, is just how popular it is, yet how little action politicians take. You assume that politicians are going to do things that are very popular, and 2/3 of people support a higher minimum wage. Take a state like Florida, which is, a purplish to red state. In 2020, 62% of Floridians voted to raise the state's minimum wage to $15. And that's 14 percentage points more than voted for President Biden. And here in California, 73% of voters support an $18 minimum wage. So when you're looking at those kinds of polling numbers, you're not talking about something that's just about populist Democrats. I mean, you're talking about half of Republicans and a majority of independents support it. There's not a lot of other political issues in the country where opinion of support spans ideology, like the minimum wage. And that's why it just doesn't make sense to me why politicians don't act on it.
Well, it's like a lot of things, though. I mean, there's a lot of things that are popular that never seem to get any movement and never seem to get addressed because it would benefit the working class. And even when we do raise the minimum wage, there always had to been a pound of flesh that went to someone else. We've never really passed something that was specifically to help working people.
Yeah, I think one of the great things we need to do is revitalize the labor movement, because workers need lobbyists, and the lobbyists for workers are labor unions. And as money has become more dominant in politics, the courts have assaulted the power of labor unions. And, we need to find ways to reimagine the power of labor despite the court's frontal assault on it, because the labor unions are all workers have. In an environment where increasingly it's $1, one vote in politics. So that's a place where we need to focus really aggressively in the next decade. How do we make labor unions stronger and stronger?
Yeah, but the sad reality, Joe, is that we're told Democrats are the friend of the working class, and yet there are still 8 Democratic senators who haven't signed on to something as weak as the Raise the Wage Act, which should have been already gone through. I mean, you've got the 2 senators from New Hampshire, Shaheen and Hass.
NBC News Radio. You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show, hosted by Milan Vukovic, founder of the Tahibo Tea Club.
Welcome to the Tahibo Tea Club radio hour. My name is Milan Vukovic. I'm the founder of the Tahibo Tea Club. Without my father, John Vukovic, there would be no Tahibo Tea Club. My father was diagnosed with colon cancer that had spread to the pancreas in 1998 at the age of 86. He started receiving treatment at the Houston Medical Center, which is the biggest medical center in the world, bigger than Boston. Because the size of the tumor on my father's pancreas was the size of a half a brick, I was told that there wasn't anything they could do for my father, and that I needed to put my father's affairs in order since he had about 2 months to live. So, of course, I started planning a funeral. I called our friends and family and told them how grave the situation was, and told them that if they wanted to see Dad, they only had a couple of months, and they might want to do so now. One of the families that came to pay their last respects to my father came and brought Tahibo tea with them. They said Tahibo tea cured their brother from cancer. I looked at them incredulous, as if they were Martians or something. I mean, my dad was getting treated at the Houston Medical Center, and no one was saying anything other than to plan a funeral, and these people were telling me that the tea is going to cure my dad? But of course, I was polite to the people since they came to pay their respects. In any event, after they left, I cooked up the tea, and my father figured if he had 2 months to live, what's the difference if he's drinking the tea or water? He has to drink something anyway. So he's drinking the tea, and 2 months later, when they put him on a CAT scan machine, they thought their CAT scan machine was broken because they couldn't find the tumor on his pancreas that used to be the size of a half a brick. So they said to my father, the hospital right next door here at the medical center also has a CAT scan machine. Since you already drank the contrast dye, we'll phone them and you can walk over and they'll take a picture so you don't have to come back and do it all over again next week when we get a machine fixed. So my father walked next door. They took a picture. They couldn't find any cancer either. My father is now 86 years old. He's been cancer-free for over 20 years. And not only is he cancer-free, he's in such good health, he takes care of my garden and even mows my lawn. I mean, I'd be embarrassed about it if he didn't enjoy doing it, and I know it's good for him. Our customers always get a kick out of it when they ask me how my dad's doing, and I tell them as long as he's mowing my lawn, he must be doing pretty good. The tea's certainly been a blessing in my family's life, and God willing, our tea will have the same benefits for you, your family and friends, as it has for mine and so many others. Not a week goes by that someone doesn't call in with a truly miraculous recovery. Bone cancer, brain cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, mesothelioma, leukemia, diabetes, you name it. And not a day goes by that someone doesn't call in with some type of a success, whether it's just beating toenail fungus. Well, toenail fungus may not be imminently life-threatening, but if you have it, you don't like it. The Tahibo tree is an amazing tree. It never gets sick, never gets infected, and never gets infested. As a result, the highest potency Tahibo comes from the inner bark of the tree, where the arterial and vein system, called the xylem and the phloem, in the tree reside, which brings nutrients to the rest of the tree. And that's why we only harvest mature trees over 40 years old in the rainforest of Brazil. The harvest method we use is to semi-strip some outer bark to get to the inner bark without cutting down the tree and allowing the tree to heal itself so they can be harvested again. It's also the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on. So as a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. These benefits go a long way to helping our immune system contend with a lot of things it normally has to contend with on a daily basis. Parasites would be something like stomach problems. Inflammation would be something like rheumatoid arthritis. Infection would be any infection from a tooth infection to a bladder infection. Viral would be something like herpes. Bacteria would be something like gum disease or stomach bacteria. And fungus would be something like toenail fungus or candida. But maybe more importantly, what the tea does is build the red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. Our immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer happens to die on oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate new cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for somebody fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as diabetes or cancer. In future programs, we'll discuss Tahibo tea versus AIDS, anemia, arthritis, asthma, bronchitis, other types of cancers, colitis, diabetes, diverticulitis, eczema, fungus, gastritis, gonorrhea, gout, HIV, impotence, infections, leukemia, lupus, Parkinson's, prostatitis, pyorrhea, rheumatism, ringworm, ulcers, virus, and yeast infections. One time a customer asked me, he said, boy, it sounds like the tea helps with everything. It does really help with a lot of different things, but for some things, for example, with the bones, calcium helps with the bones. The Tahibo helps with a lot of different things, but you need some other things also for a healthy diet. I'd like to talk a little about the proper preparation directions for Tahibo tea to be effective. Even though we call it tea, what you're actually preparing when you make it properly is a decoction. A decoction is just a fancy word for what our forefathers used to make when they used to take a root and cook it in order to release its beneficial properties. It's easy, but you don't steep it in hot water like regular leaf tea, but rather cook it like spaghetti. I'll tell you how easy it is to make just so you don't think you'll need a degree in physics, but you don't have to remember any of this because the directions, of course, are on the packages as well as in the literature you automatically receive with your order. You take a pot of water, bring it to a boil. Once the water is boiling, you toss in a tablespoon of tea for every 2 cups of boiling water. Cook it on high for 5 minutes, reduce the heat, and cook on simmer for an additional 15 minutes. Since our tea comes from the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on, you can make a whole big batch, 10 or 20 cups at a time, leave it in the pot on the stove, and it'll stay good for 4 days without refrigeration. Put it in the fridge, and it'll stay good for 8 days with refrigeration, and you can drink it hot, room temperature, cold, or iced. The tea has a mild, pleasant flavor, kind of halfway between Lipton tea and green tea, but a little bit sweeter than either one of those. Our tea tastes so good that 95% of our customers drink it straight without putting anything else in it. Even teenagers drink it straight. So, you know it must taste pretty good. You can, however, add anything you want to the tea after you prepare it, such as lemon, for example. About the only thing we don't recommend to add to the tea is sugar. Not because it has any contraindications with our tea, but because sugar feeds virtually everything bad in our body, from fungus to diabetes to cancer. The other thing you can do to change the flavor and have some fun while cooking the tea, you can take any old fruit that you have on hand, like an apple, a pear, a peach, mango, whatever it is, slice it up, or take blueberries and crush them up and toss them into the boiling water at the same time you're tossing the tea in, and cook it with the tea. You can also take ginger or a cinnamon stick and cook it with the tea. And because the tea naturally has such a mild flavor, you'll immediately change the flavor to the fruit that you're using. This is especially useful when you're giving the tea to a child to drink, because an 8-year-old has not acquired a taste for any kind of tea, regardless how mild it tastes. Tahibo tea has no contraindications with any medications, so it can be taken on an empty stomach, a full stomach, with medications or without medications, and with or without other therapies. It also has no caffeine, so it can be drank all day and all night. In my family, we all drink it like water all day, every day. I only drink water 3 or 4 times a week when I get tired of drinking a tea.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Milan and more from the Tahibo Tea Club radio show in just a minute. But for now, here's a word from our sponsors.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Tahibo, and then continue with the word tea and then the word club. So the complete site is www.tahiboteaclub.com or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
Welcome back. This is Milan Vukovic, founder of the Tahibo Tea Club. My father's case was a case of colon cancer that had metastasized to the pancreas. I'd like to tell you about another cancer case about a man from Chicago. In 2009, he was diagnosed with brain cancer, specifically lymphoma of the brain. They immediately started chemo and radiation treatments, but his cancer kept getting worse. The chemo and radiation were not working for him, and they were making him sicker by the day because they're not easy treatments. By January 2010, he was literally on his deathbed. A friend of his who had heard about the tea called us and said, go ahead and send the tea to him in Chicago, even though it's probably too late for our friend, but for $34.95, it's certainly worth a try. So we went ahead, sent the tea to him in Chicago. We didn't hear from anyone until about 5 months later, this lady from Texas called to order the tea. We asked her how she heard about the tea, and she said, you know, my husband and I are originally from Chicago, and about 5 months ago when we were back visiting, our good friend Nick was dying from brain cancer. He was in such bad shape that my husband and I looked at each other and thought he was going to pass away that week, so we might as well stay in Chicago so we don't have to come back again the next week for a funeral. Well, Nick got the tea about that time and started drinking it, and he started getting a little bit stronger. My husband and I went back to Texas, and now 5 months later, Nick is visiting us. He looks better than you or I, so whatever it is that he's drinking, we want to drink too. I want to tell you that Nick at that time was 60 years old, and once he beat the cancer, he was feeling so good he got bored staying at home, so he went back to work full-time, and he's been cancer-free and in good health now for over 8 years and still continues to work full-time. I want to shift gears now and talk about diabetes. Oftentimes I get the question, how long does it take for the tea to work? If the tea is going to help, it's going to work rather quickly. In my father's case, it eradicated the tumor in exactly 2 months. In Nick's case with the brain cancer, it was about 3 to 4 months. Now, with diabetes and with all of the conditions with the tea, there's a healing process that's involved. Now, with diabetes, it's very easy to tell that the tea is working. Let's say, for example, if a diabetic is taking on average 40 units of insulin daily. They continue to take their insulin and they start drinking a tea. Since they're measuring the blood sugar on a daily basis to know whether to take 35 units or 40 units or 45 units of insulin, which makes a big difference, they'll notice typically that in 2 weeks, instead of needing 40 units of insulin, they only need 30 units of insulin. In 4 weeks, they'll notice they only need 20 units of insulin. In 6 weeks, they'll only need 10 units of insulin. And in 2 months, they won't need insulin at all. So there's a healing process involved because the tea helps the body to heal itself. And with different conditions, there's different healing times that are involved. With infections, for example, a tooth infection, you can get rid of faster than you can with penicillin. You can get rid of a tooth infection in a week. And what happens with a tooth infection is you start drinking a tea. Let's say you have a tooth infection and your head is throbbing like in a cartoons, like a bomb that's about to explode. You take a drink of the tea, you hold it in your mouth for 2 minutes, the pain will immediately go away. You can't even get rid of the pain that quickly with a Vicodin. Now, if you stop drinking the tea at that point, you haven't knocked out enough bacteria, so the pain will come back in about 30 minutes. But you take another drink in about 30 minutes. If you take a drink of the tea, let's say 1 glass an hour for 4 hours, you'll completely get rid of the pain. But you haven't still knocked out all the bacteria, so if at that point you stop drinking the tea, the pain will come back in about 3 days. So you need to continuously drink the tea for 1 week in order to get rid of the pain. Kind of like when you go to a dentist and the dentist says, here's the penicillin, take 2 a day. Even though you're going to feel great in a day, you have to drink it for 10 days or so in order to completely knock out the bacteria. Same thing with the tea. You need to completely drink the tea until you knock out the bacteria, which typically in case of a tooth infection takes about a week to 10 days. In other infections, it takes a little bit longer. So, for example, with a bladder infection or a urinary tract infection, it's common to take about 2 weeks to completely get rid of the infection, but you get relief like within 24 hours so that you don't have the pain associated. Now, talking about urinary tract infections, there are folks that get chronic urinary tract infections, and what happens is they go to the doctor gives them antibiotics, they drink the antibiotics for 2 weeks, and the infection goes away. A month later, the infection comes back, they go back to the doctor to get some more antibiotics, and in 2 weeks the pain goes away. And what happens is they keep cycling on and off the antibiotics, which obviously is not a good thing to do, on an ongoing regular basis. On the other hand, they could just drink the tea. The tea is great for them for a lot of other health benefits as well. In 2 weeks, they'll be rid of their urinary tract infection, and they won't get the infection back.
You're listening to the Taheebo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Taheebo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents who are both now 86. For more information about Taheebo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.taheboteaclub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Taheebo, and then continue with the word tea and then the word club. So the complete site is www.taheboteaclub.com or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. 888-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
Our tea has no contraindications with any foods, supplements, or medications. It's naturally caffeine-free. It can be drank in any quantity throughout the day by anyone over the age of 3. Since a baby's nutritional needs are unique, it's not recommended for babies or for women who are breastfeeding or pregnant. The tea has a number of natural benefits. Some of these include helping to control blood sugar, cleansing the blood of cholesterol, and controlling high blood pressure. If you're taking medications for any conditions, please keep taking your medication until your measurements are at a level where your doctor has told you to reduce the amount of medication. For example, if you're a diabetic, you should be taking your blood sugar level daily in order to know your correct dose of insulin. Now, besides people, the tea is also fantastic for animals. Everything from dogs to horses. One day we got a call from a customer who wanted to purchase the tea for the champion show dog who developed a skin disorder and for whom antibiotics had not worked. Exactly 3 weeks later, the customer called again to tell us the skin had completely cleared up and the dog was back at work as a model. I asked how they got the dog to drink the tea, and they said they simply replaced the water in his bowl with the tea. So it turns out that the dogs actually really like the tea. About 3 months later, another customer called and asked if we knew that dogs preferred our tea over water. We told him we'd heard that dogs like our tea, but why did he think the dogs preferred the tea over water? He said he had 3 dogs, one of which was sick. Since he had multiple dogs, he also had multiple water bowls, and he'd replaced the water in one of the bowls with tea, and that bowl was gone first every day. So since the dogs obviously were the only ones drinking out of the bowls, he knew that the dogs preferred the tea over water. So it's really easy to get a dog to drink the tea. All you do is swap out the water with the tea, and the dogs will immediately start drinking it. If by chance they don't, all you do is put 2-3 ice cubes in with the tea, and the dog will think it's dessert, and by tomorrow he'll be asking you for the tea. We have a lot of cases with dogs. One time, a very funny incident, a lady called in and said, she says, my friend has a Chihuahua, and she heard that your tea was good for dogs, and she started giving the tea to her Chihuahua, and her Chihuahua doesn't shed hair anymore. So since I have a Chihuahua, she gave the tea to me, and I'm giving it to my dog, and I'll be darned, my Chihuahua doesn't shed hair anymore. And I don't know anything about Chihuahuas. We have a Siberian Husky, so I said, did Chihuahuas really shed a lot? She says, oh yeah, they typically shed like crazy. So about an hour later, a customer from Dallas called in, and I'm talking to her on the phone, and I says, I learned something new about our own tea today, and I told her the Chihuahua story. And she says to me, you didn't know that? And I said, well, no, I don't know anything about Chihuahuas. She said, well, you never seen me, she says, because I'm in Dallas, she says, but I've been a customer of yours now for about 2 years, and before I started drinking your tea, I have long hair. Before I started drinking your tea, I used to lose a lot of hair when I was brushing my hair and when I was showering. Since I started drinking your tea, I hardly lose any hair at all, and not only that, my fingernails are strong like concrete. I'd like to shift gears again, if I can, and talk a little bit more about infections. A man went to visit a dentist for a tooth infection. The dentist gave him a prescription for penicillin to knock the bacteria out and a prescription for Vicodin to kill the pain. He sped over to the drugstore, picked up the prescriptions, and couldn't wait to get home to take the pills since his head was throbbing as it was going to explode. On his way home, he called a friend from his car and was explaining to him what a world of hurt he was in. The friend told him to swing by his place and he'd get rid of the pain in exactly 2 minutes. He was told that not even the Vicodin would kick in that fast and that he really wanted to get home to get rid of the pain as soon as possible and take the Vicodin and the penicillin. Well, the friend said, "You've already picked up the pills from the pharmacy, so you've got them with you. If the Tahibo tea I'm going to give you doesn't work, then start popping the pills." He went over to his friend's house. His friends had him take a drink of the tea and told him to hold in his mouth over the tooth that was infected for a couple of minutes before swallowing. The pain went away. He explained to his friend, though, that until enough bacteria was knocked out, which requires drinking 5 or 6 glasses of tea in the span of 3 or 4 hours, that the pain would come back in about 30 minutes. But since he's drinking a tea during this time anyway, to simply take a drink of the tea and hold it in his mouth again for 2 minutes before swallowing, and the pain will go away. Unbelievably, this is exactly what happened.
Want to learn more? Check out our podcasts only on the iHeartRadio app. The Tahibo Tea Club radio show is now available on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just open up your iHeartRadio app and search Tahibo, Taheebo, and start streaming today. Our podcast will let you listen to people throughout the country who have shared their real-life stories on the successful results they've had using Tahibo tea. The Tahibo Tea Club radio show, now available as a podcast on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 308 ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, Aheeb like boy. Oh, that's Tahibo, and then continue with the word tea and then the word club. So the complete site is www.tahiboteaclub.com or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Tahibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau d'Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TahiboTeaClub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, Aheeb like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TahiboTeaClub.com or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TahiboTeaClub.com.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, since our tea comes from the only tree in the world the fungus doesn't grow on, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. And so included with every order, we automatically include literature about the tea because typically folks will primarily buy the tea for one primary reason, whether it's cancer or whether it's diabetes or whether it's an infection or whatever the case is. And then oftentimes they'll call back and say, this is really truly unbelievable. This also helped me with my rheumatoid arthritis or something of that nature or something different. One time I got a phone call from a a man in Florida who is a customer of ours, and he says, Milan, there's something you didn't tell me about the tea. And I go, really? What's that? So, well, he says, I'm an older man. I have toenail fungus. My toenail fungus is completely gone. My toes are now the only beautiful thing in my body. And I go, well, of course, the tea naturally has antifungal properties. It comes from the only tree in the world that fungus doesn't grow on. And he says, well, that's fantastic. And I said, well, yeah, because, I mean, the only thing we talked about when you called in was with regards to your lung cancer. And as it happened, the man had lung cancer for 18 years, and he was receiving radio frequency ablation for his lung cancer. And when he first drank, and after 18 years, he says, the ablation works. He says, you can smell your own flesh burning. He says, literally, he says, and after 18 years, there's nothing left on my lungs to burn out, he says. So he says, I don't really believe in things like your tea, he says, but it doesn't cost very much, so go ahead and send me the tea. So we did. And he called back about 3 weeks later, and he says, if somebody would have told me that a $35 bag of tea would get rid of my pain in 5 days, I'd have said you're crazy, because I was taking 10 narcotic pills daily to mitigate the pain, and I never really did. And after 5 days, my pain went away, and I was telling my friends that this is unbelievable. I'm drinking this tea, and the pain associated with my cancer is gone. And my friend said, oh, man, it's got to be in your head. He says, that's why I waited 3 weeks to give you a call back. It's not in my head. The pain's gone. If you'd like more information about Tahibo tea, or you'd like to talk to us, just give us a call. We're located in Los Angeles. Our office hours are 9 to 5 California time, Monday through Saturday. Our telephone number is 818-610-8088. And of course, you can also get a lot more information on our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com, and the only tricky thing is to spell Tahibo, which is spelled T-A-H-E-E-B-O, and then continue with the word T-T-E-A, club.com. So the complete website is www.tahiboteaclub.com, and you'll get more information there. And of course, we welcome you to give us a call, because as you can tell, we learned a lot about our own product from customers calling us in with regards to their dogs, with regards to toenail fungus, with regards to diabetes, and with regards to all type of different cancer cases. And once again, our telephone number is area code 818-610-8088.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Milan and much more from the Tahibo Tea Club radio show in just a minute. But first, a word from our sponsors.
You're listening to the Tahibo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 308 ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Tahibo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents, who are both now 86. For more information about Tahibo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.tahiboteaclub.com. Tahibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Tahibo, and then continue with the word tea, and then the word club. So the complete site is www.tahiboteaclub.com, or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. 8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Tehibo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TehiboTeaClub.com. Tehibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TehiboTeaClub.com or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TehiboTeaClub.com.
Welcome back to the Tehibo Tea Club radio show. Our tea is effective against all types of cancers because it works through the bloodstream. And of course, cancer cells need blood to get to them just as healthy cells do. The big difference being is that cancer cells work in an anaerobic environment or live in an anaerobic environment, which means they live in the absence of oxygen and they get their energy from sugar instead of from oxygen like healthy cells do. But specifically now, I'd like to devote our attention to prostate cancer because 80% of men are going to contract prostate cancer by the time they turn 80 years old. And from the cancer cases that we have, of course, because so many men get prostate cancer, we have more successful prostate cancer cases than any other cases just because they're the most prevalent. I'd like to tell you about a couple of those cases. I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago from a man in Phoenix, and he says to me, he says, I don't know if you remember speaking to me 4 months ago or not, he says, but I had prostate cancer that was aggressively metastasizing through my whole body, my bones, everywhere. And you told me to drink at least 8 glasses of Tehibo tea a day or more, as much as I could humanly stand. So I literally took that to heart, and I was drinking a gallon a day, which is 16 cups or more, he says. I was drinking so much of your tea that sometimes I was drinking a tea and having to go pee at the same time. But I'll tell you what, in 4 months, I don't have any more cancer. Now, in the informational literature that we automatically include with every order, it says, please give us a call to tell us about your case so that we can help more people. Well, one day I got a call from a man in Beaumont, Texas. And he says to me, he says, I've been a customer of yours, he says, for 5 years now, he says, and in your booklets it says to give you a call to tell you about your case, so I'm calling to give you an update. I go, fantastic, please tell me. He says, 5 years ago I had prostate cancer and my PSA level was 1200. So now, I'm thinking, I don't understand this man's Southern Texas accent from Beaumont, Texas. So I say to him, you mean 120? Because we'd never had anybody previous to that had more than 550. He says, no, 1,200. My PSA level was so high, they didn't want to give me any treatment. And he says, they're going to give you treatment. He says, whether it's going to work or not, just to collect on the money. So I had no other choices, and I started drinking your tea. And not only am I still alive 5 years later, my PSA level is now 1.25. So last October, a man from Saskatchewan, Canada calls up, and he says to me he's got prostate cancer. So I'm telling him about the Beaumont prostate cancer case, the 1200 case, and he says, that's nothing. He says, my prostate PSA level is 2100. I said, oh my God, you have to promise to call me back. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and write down your name and number on a yellow sticky and stick it on my computer. For now, if I don't hear back from you, I'm going to call you myself to find out what happened. Well, a month or so ago, we got an email from him, and he says, I started drinking your tea in October, and I'm getting my PSA checked every 2 months. And at the 2-month mark, my PSA level dropped from 2100 to 100. At the 4-month mark, my PSA level dropped from 100 to 10. And now, at the 6-month mark, my PSA level is 1.75. So it's truly gratifying to hear from customers on an ongoing basis, and very humbling because all we do is harvest the original tea. We don't put any fillers in it, and it's just as God had meant the plant to be. Now, the only secret to success with our tea, and the great thing is it tastes great, is volume of consumption. So you want to make certain that if you are fighting a potentially life-threatening disease, it's a race. You need to beat it before it beats you. So you want to be drinking the tea like water, or instead of water, 8 glasses a day or more, which is easy to do since it has a really mild, pleasant flavor. You can take it on an empty stomach, a full stomach, with medication, without medication, and it doesn't have any caffeine, so you can drink it all day, all night.
Tehibo Tea Club's original Pure Pau D'Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TehiboTeaClub.com. Tehibo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TehiboTeaClub.com, or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TehiboTeaClub.com.
Now, I'd also like to talk a little bit about my least favorite cases that I hear about, and also my favorite cases that I hear about. Now, my least favorite cases that I hear about are people that previously had cancer of some type 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they were told that they're all clear from cancer. And now, 4 or 5 years later, the cancer has returned. And I'm thinking, oh my God, if they just knew about the tea and they drank the tea, there's a good possibility the cancer would not have come back. Now, when a person has gone through the treatments, they're all really harsh. Surgery's not easy, radiation's not easy, and chemotherapy's not easy. And they've exhausted all those treatments and gotten a clean bill of health. Well, what it means when they say that you're all clear from cancer is they just don't see cancer cells. Now, because all of us have cancer cells in us, it's just that our body and our immune system can keep those cancer cells at check. So obviously somebody who has had cancer before, has a much more likelihood that the cancer will come back than somebody who's never had cancer before. So I emphasize to everybody that drinks our tea, once you do get a clean bill of health, whether with our tea or without our tea, please continue drinking our tea after, because you don't want to have to go through radiation, chemotherapy, or surgery again. Now, my favorite cases are when I get calls from customers who have been diagnosed with cancer, and they start drinking the tea right away as soon as they're diagnosed. And oftentimes it takes conventional medicine 2-3 months to get around to starting treatment, either because they need to get insurance approval from the insurance company, or they need to decide which form of treatment they're going to take, whether they'll do surgery first or they'll do chemotherapy first, or whatever the case is. In the meantime, the customer has ordered the tea and has started drinking it. And 2.5 months later, when they get around to doing something, there's no cancer anymore. I just got a phone call the other day from a lady in North Carolina, and she says, my husband got diagnosed with lung cancer 2.5 months ago. and we heard about your tea, and we ordered the tea right away, and he started drinking it immediately. And 2 days ago, he was scheduled for a biopsy. So I called my sister and asked her to come over and go with me to the hospital, because it's a day procedure, the biopsy is, and that way she could wait with me and keep me company while we waited for my husband. So we went ahead and checked my husband into the hospital, and we found out where the cafeteria was and where to get some water, and got comfortable in the waiting room. And no sooner had we got comfortable in the waiting room than the nurse came out and she says, "Oh my God, there's nothing to biopsy." So those are my favorite cases, and we get those cases all along. So it doesn't matter whether you start drinking a tea before you start therapy or during therapy, or the reason we also have a lot of miraculous cases is that people go through all of the therapies, and at some point the doctors will say, "Hey, listen, we've tried our best, but unfortunately, if we give you any more chemo, we're going to hasten your demise rather than help you, and you have 6 weeks to live." And at that point, if a person starts drinking a tea and they're not doing anything different, obviously the tea might be helping them, and we're just truly gratified when that happens. Now, another great case from one of our customers that's been a customer for 5 years. She calls to reorder, and I see that she's been a customer of ours for 5 years. And I said, "Can you tell me the primary reason why you're drinking a tea?" She says, "Yes." She says, "In the promotional booklets that you always have, in the informational booklets that you include whatever you order." I said, "Yes." She says, "Right there in the staple page where the middle of the booklet is, when you open it up like a sandwich, you have about 30 things listed that the tea is good against." I go, "Yeah." She says, "I don't want to get any of those things. I'm 79 years old, and I don't take any pills, and all I do is drink the tea, and I look like I'm 60. And she says, "That's the way that I want to keep it." And I said, "Well, that's fantastic." I said, a lot of people need to know that as well, that it's great as a health maintenance to drink the tea. She says, "Of course," she says, "it's too late to plant a garden once you're hungry." So, in that being said, please go ahead and enjoy the tea. It tastes great, and God willing, our tea will have the same benefits for you that it's had for my family and so many others.
You're listening to the Taheebo Tea Club radio show. All packaging is in 1 pound packages. A 1 pound package of tea is $49.95, and that includes shipping.
And 1 pound makes 300 8-ounce cups or glasses of tea. That's the equivalent of 12 cents a glass to make. So even if you're drinking 8 glasses a day, that's 96 cents a day to at least give yourself the opportunity for success. All orders ship immediately the same day. Orders in Los Angeles, where we're located, arrive in 1 day. Orders everywhere else arrive in 2 days. Taheebo tea is great for healthy people because it helps regenerate cells. Everything from the cells in our skin so we look better to the cells in our organs so they function properly. And it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease such as an infection, diabetes, or cancer. In Milan Vukovic's family, everyone drinks it every day like water, from his 20-year-old son to his parents, who are both now 86. For more information about Taheebo tea or to order, please visit our website, www.taheboteaclub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy. Oh, that's Taheebo, and then continue with the word tea and then the word club. So the complete site is www.taheboteaclub.com, or call today at 818-610-8088. That's 818-610-8088. LA offices open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, California time. That's area code 818-610-8088.
Taheebo Tea Club's original Pure Pau de Arco Super Tea comes from the only tree in the world that fungus does not grow on. As a result, it naturally has antifungal, anti-infection, antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammation, and anti-parasite properties. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit TaheeboTeaClub.com. Taheebo is spelled T like Tom, A-H-E-E-B like boy, O, then continue with the word tea and then the word club. The complete website is TaheeboTeaClub.com or call us at 818-610-8088, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-610-8088, TaheeboTeaClub.com.
Thank you for listening. The Taheebo Tea Club is a labor of love, life, and health. We only sell pure pau d'arco bark to make Taheebo tea. After my father's miraculous recovery from colon pancreatic cancer, I was buying the tea where I could find it and when I could find it. Problem was, even here in the United States, the tea wasn't easy to find, and when I did find it, oftentimes the quality was poor, sometimes it wasn't even the right tea, and invariably the directions to prepare it were wrong. Steep it. Well, you're not going to get very much if you soak wood for 5 minutes. So my friends and I decided to start the Taheebo Tea Club as a source of only one product, pure Pau d'Arco Taheebo tea. Our club is the best club in the world. We have no application, no membership dues, and no meetings. You only receive a newsletter or email from us when we have something new to report. To that extent, we would like to ask for your help. The only way we can help more people is to hear from your experiences. People with leukemia would like to hear about leukemia. People with prostate cancer would like to hear about prostate cancer. People with diabetes would like to hear about diabetes. And people with infections would like to...
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
The Federal Reserve has raised its benchmark interest rate a hefty 0.75 of a point for a second straight time. And Chair Jerome Powell says the Fed will keep taking action to lower inflation.
Over coming months, we will be looking for compelling evidence that inflation is moving down, consistent with inflation returning to 2%. We anticipate that ongoing increases in the target range for the federal funds rate will be appropriate.
Asked if the economy is already in recession.
This is a very strong labor market, and it's just not consistent with 2.7 million people hired in the first half of the year. It doesn't make sense that the economy would be in recession with this kind of thing happening. So I don't think the U.S. economy is in recession right now.
Stocks closed solidly higher on Wall Street, buoyed by strong